welcome to Millionaires in Training. Just want to acknowledge everybody down south in the United States. Hope you had a great Memorial Day. And up here in Toronto, things are as they are. This particular call we call MIT, or Millionaires in Training, as a leadership type call that we do for our organization worldwide. And people that participate are generally speaking, those who are aspiring to higher levels of prosperity. And on this particular call, we discuss the philosophies, the habits, the disciplines, and many of the skill sets that are required to reach the high levels of success in network distribution, for that matter, in anything that we do. If you're on this call as a guest tonight, special welcome to you. You'll get some great context as to what it takes to, reach the six-figure type incomes and or six-figure type incomes monthly, if not annually. And obviously, to have that type of an income coming in, that type of prosperity that is of a residual nature, we have to employ other skill sets and other philosophies in our day-to-day business activities. If you're on this line and you're just starting to take a look at CEJA also, please note this is not a product-centered call, so we don't get into the products, although we do have a product call each and every Wednesday with the formulator of the CEJA International products, and all your questions will be answered on that call. Certainly the person who invited you tonight will direct you to the appropriate information and get all your questions answered. I was just thinking about what to focus in on this particular call this evening, and given that we are just about to enter the summer, going into June, July, August, which will ultimately lead to the International Convention in CEJA International, where many of the success stories will be acknowledged. Many of the people who have advanced and grown their business will be acknowledged. I guess it creates the question, what separates those who have advanced and advanced significantly from maybe starting last year or a couple of years ago, or in some cases in a matter of months, and then they find themselves showing up at an international convention and being acknowledged for rapid growth and high rank advancement, and ultimately achieving the goals that we all set out to achieve, or many of us do, of having a degree of financial independence, or for that matter, a high degree of financial independence. If you want to talk about some of the top earners in the company, how does that happen? How does a person do it in 6 months or a year or 2 years? And the answer ultimately lies in personal development, which has to do with prosperity mindset, has to do with our focus, has to do with what we attract in our business building efforts. And I think that's always a great topic, and that there's always great substance in that topic for people to latch onto and to grab onto. I share a little bit of my own story as it relates to that in the industry of network distribution. And if there's any guests online tonight, just to give you some of my own background, I live in Toronto. My name is David Moses, independent distributor with CEJA International. My background prior to this industry was in the trades, and so basically worked with my hands and restored cars as well as in the family business and building supplies and glass. And when I got into this industry of building a business from home, I was 27 years old, and I had no concept of working with people, building an organization, and all the skills that would be required um, to do that successfully. Had no idea. Um, I I operated on faith. I operated on a personal vision and the vision of the company that I was associated with at the time. I was 27 years old. I went to one of these presentations, and they talked about residual income. They talked about financial independence. They talked about um, time freedom, being debt-free, having the best in life, having a home paid for, having a few material possessions or toys, and being able to vacation and go on five-star vacations, and sending our kids to best schools, giving them the best education, being able to contribute to the community, being able to help others, being able to do charity. All the things that would, give somebody a really complete and in-depth life. And I bought that story. I said, well, I'd love that for my family. And I think, it's obvious everybody would want that, right? I mean, that's almost a rhetorical question. I mean, who wouldn't want all of those things? And so I got started in this industry. They told me to do some basic things. Told me to make a list and to expose people to the possibility, to the opportunity, to the product, and so forth. And in getting started in the business, I ran into a lot of skeptical, negative people. And I say that because my guess is that every single person on this line has run into those people. Interestingly enough, most of those people were friends and family. Okay, so the people that I thought would be most approachable, in general, were the least approachable. And that's for a variety of reasons. Probably the biggest reason is the relationship that I had, or that I had and or have with friends and family, is one that is time grown. Right? So they didn't know me as a network marketer, as a successful entrepreneur, as a successful business person. They didn't know me as someone that they could envision as financially independent. So I'm talking to them about the possibilities of $10,000 a month and about all these wonderful things that I caught in the vision of that first presentation. And they just didn't put the two together. They didn't put me together with that concept. And so, yeah, obviously, the response was less than positive. Well, looking back from today's perspective, it's pretty easy to see why I had that response. And so you take certain people when we're prospecting today, when we go to meet new people today, and we go and talk to them, but they are people of credibility, they are people with a wide center of influence, they are people that have a proven track record in certain areas, and they get started in the business and excel very quickly because they've established a certain, a certain command and a certain respect with the people that they know and with their center of influence, aside from their ability to communicate. And so for me, there was a path, and the path was that at 27, I had to change, right? Jim Rohn says it this way. Many people have said this in different ways. For things to change, I had to change. For things to get better, I had to get better. The only way it gets better Better is not something you wish, better is something you become. And so I had to start becoming. I had to start evolving in the process of moving towards success. And of course, each and every one of us have had that personal experience in a variety of things, depending on what it is that we have mastered. Some of us may be great at golf, some of us may be great at dance, some of us may be great at a particular sport, some of us may be great at art, or whatever it is. But whatever it is that we are good at or great at, there is no question that we have evolved over time to master that particular art. Right? And so in our business, everything is encompassed around personal development. And in fact, I would go on to say that probably most things are encompassed in personal development. Prosperity mindset, finding our character and our skill set, because when we're in the right mindset, when we have the right motivations, the right intentions, and driven by desire, then we will do everything that is required to achieve success. We'll do it all. We'll do everything, right? We'll have those disciplines. We'll employ those disciplines. We'll have the consistency and the persistency, and to be persistent, I should say, to continue down a path to achieve whatever the dreams, goals, and aspirations are that we set out to achieve. So I guess what I'm saying is that when we set ourselves up from the inside for success, when we set ourselves up from a mindset standpoint, then we will do everything necessary in terms of our actions that will lead us to success, right? All the things that we do on a day-to-day basis will be congruent with what our internal thermostat is set to, right? So if we see ourselves with prosperity, right, and we own that, and we dwell on that, and we have a clear picture of that, a vision of that, what it looks like, then ultimately that will manifest itself over time. Now, sometimes it'll happen very quickly, and other times it'll happen slowly. But one thing is for sure, there's no question about it. I've been doing this for 23 years. It'll be 24 years in network distribution in December of this year. And I have seen in that time, being 9 years on the corporate side and many years on the field side, having owned 2 network marketing companies in the past, I have seen many people come into this business and completely alter their circumstances in their life, and in the process of that, they have created an environment for many other people to do the same. So many other people have become successful because one person became successful, chose to become successful. And of course, we only become successful when we are able to help others do the same. And so, when you see that, and you can look back on it over the course of a couple of decades, then you just absolutely know, you intrinsically know what's possible and what can happen. And I also know this, success at the highest levels is absolutely possible for every single person, right? Every single person has the capacity, the God-given talent, the gifts, the ingredients to become successful at the highest levels. And I'm not just talking about money. Money is probably last on the list, but it is a measuring stick that is part of all the other pieces that fall into place, right? So I'm talking about the whole package. And everybody has those ingredients, but not everybody, in fact, so few people will develop those gifts. And why is that? Why is that so many people get stuck and or become, succumb to the outside forces, and then in the end lose that vision, lose that dream, and all the aspirations disappear, and we end up in settling for mediocrity, or settling for less than we can become and or we deserve. And again, that goes back to personal development. So many people are in the state they're in and or mindset they're in because of the negative influences of other people and circumstances that harmonize with our own doubts and or fears. And so, in other words, an example, I get started in the business and I'm excited. I have a vision. I went to that presentation and it was just great. And I left that presentation at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. At 212 degrees. I'm on fire. I see a path. And I go out and talk to a couple of people, and maybe one of the first people I speak to is a family member or a close friend or somebody. And that person absolutely shoots down, the vision that I have and where I'm going, and is basically negative and skeptical. And if I don't have that strong personal belief in myself and what I'm doing, I am more likely to come down a couple of notches after speaking with that person. And then after I go to the second person and the third person, by the time I get to the third person, I barely even want to do a presentation. Most people will succumb to that, and it is the number one reason, the single number one reason that separates people at the highest levels, from people who get started but never reach those high levels. That's the number one reason, is that people are affected by others. And in most cases, the others that affect us are the ones who they themselves are in a very difficult situation. Credit cards maxed out, living, paycheck to paycheck and so forth, in debt, with no prospects of that changing in terms of having an opportunity. And so, for me, fortunately, when I got started in network distribution, December 1989, pretty well my very first month, certainly within my second month, I was exposed to this whole idea of personal development. Somebody handed me an audio cassette tape, and the speaker on that particular cassette was Jim Rohn. The cassette that I was handed was called The Seasons of Life, one of his talks, and I used to listen to that. Along with, in my day, gentlemen passed away, both of them. Jim Rohn passed away and Zig Ziglar passed away. Zig Ziglar was another one. This was before the time of The Secret, and at a time where Tony Robbins, was relatively new, but he was on the move. So, and there's of course a lot of other speakers and others that have emerged over these last couple of decades. But listening to that material started to educate me and set up my thought processes such that when I ran into the challenges in the early stages of building, those challenges became more of an opportunity to learn, to develop, to grow, to advance, as opposed to an obstacle or a hindrance or a reason not to. They actually became the reasons too. And at the time of some of those difficulties, it didn't seem like those difficulties were opportunities. At the moment it's happening, it's actually quite distasteful, right? It's not necessarily a pleasant experience. You go to your brother with your new business, and he absolutely refuses to even listen to anything. Doesn't even give you the opportunity. Or you go to a friend or a family member, and so forth. And so, but you can't really see the opportunity in that until years later, when you look back and you say, those were all the moments where I got stronger, where I developed, where I learned context, where I learned what to say, what not to say, how to approach people, how not to approach people, what is the language, and so forth. And you grow, right? And so, today, people come over to the house, I do a presentation, and, people, not everybody, but there's always someone that'll ask you, what kind of income is possible. And I tell them something, that's basically as much as you can see, as much as you could dream of. There are people in our business, making $10,000, almost $10,000 a day, right? In our company, which is, it's unbelievable. If you look at that over the course, and that's residual income, right? It's not income that has to be created, and everything in between. People find that it's almost astonishing. A lot of people have to, people that are earning that kind of money have huge businesses, hundreds of employees, huge overhead and facilities in order to have the leverage to generate that. And then they see, people working from home, out of a home office, walking around in shorts with a headset, and it's almost inconceivable. Well, all of that is possible when we are willing to do the work on ourselves, when we go through the personal development, which gives us the ability to command and attract that kind of prosperity. And so, although we don't need to get into or we don't have time to get into specifics on personal development, what is personal development? It is everything. It is everything from learning the basics about finances. What do we do with a dollar, right? If we don't know what to do with a dollar, when the amounts are small, we will certainly not know we won't know what to do with $100 or $1,000 or, for that matter, $1,000,000, right? Jim Rohn said it this way: if we're going to become a millionaire, if we're going to make $1,000,000, best we become a millionaire so we get to keep the money, right? In other words, what he means is best we become worthy of having $1,000,000 so that we know what to do with that $1,000,000 and make it grow, right? As opposed to have it disappear or have it go into things that are destructive, not constructive. Income does not far exceed personal development. Unless we go out where it is, we'll always come back to where we are, right? Somebody once said, if you took all the money in the world, divided it evenly amongst everybody, it would soon end up back in the same pockets. Why? Well, because what they teach us in school, and I was not a great student, speaking of school, just barely got out of high school, but what we learn in school for the most part, is how to learn, right? And there's nothing, there's nothing in algebra or any particular subject that we study in middle school or primary school or high school that is actually useful, right? I mean, we go to college after we learn a particular trade or a particular profession, or we go to university and become a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever. But we've learned a specific vocation or job or business or profession. We haven't really personally developed the other refinements, right? Refinements of leadership, refinements of character, interpersonal skills, working with an organization, working with a team, managing emotions, how to dress, how to project, speaking skills, all these little nuances that make up for the network marketing professional. This business is really the game of life. Now, it is, it's a great business. It's an exciting business. Don't forget, the products are great. Products are wonderful. The way we get compensated is great. But the process along the way of what we can become as we develop, as we grow our business, is extraordinary. It's what makes this whole thing worthwhile. It's the most exciting aspect of this business, is seeing what personal development can do for people. Some of the books that I read, now there are many books, and there are many different people that present the material that relates to personal development. There's many aspects of personal development. But the most basic one and the classic of all classics is Think and Grow Rich. Okay, there's, everything's in the good book, right? The Bible tells all. But the street versions, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I wasn't much of a reader, so I got that book on audio cassette. I burned out a lot of tape decks in the 1990s, listening to that until I had completely internalized that material, and then started to do the action steps that manifested exactly what was said in the aspects of Think and Grow Rich, and all the different chapters. And I can look today, and at age 50. By the way, it doesn't have to take us. I was a slow learner. It took me a long time. There are people who are far surpassing any records that I created. Those are all being wiped out by some of the new generation and technology, and others who are a lot more coachable than I was. I was a slow learner. It took me about 3 years to start making a living in the business, and I was slow, right? 3 years before I actually, the second year I was kind of almost making something, but not quite a living. And the third year I was making a living. In the fourth and fifth year, I started making significant money. It wasn't until the end of the first decade in this business where I started making serious money. Okay, so I was in terms of what some people are doing today, it'd be considered, a decent pace, but actually pretty slow, right? So there are a lot of people that are advancing much quicker. They're just more, they're more up to date. They've got more technology, and they're a whole lot more coachable. They learn very quickly. They duplicate, and they're able to copy. And so that's the good news. If you're online tonight, the news is you can change your path. You can change the speed at which you are growing and developing literally in your next breath. Literally in your next breath. All of that can change if you desire it to. But we must learn to work harder on ourselves than we do in our business. Right? So I don't actually work that hard today. I put in my time, but I work a whole lot smarter than I do in terms of hard work. My first years, yes, I worked hard. I did a whole lot of traveling and a whole lot of running around and a whole lot of meetings and a whole lot of presentations with, relatively speaking, little results. Today, I do fewer presentations, a lot less running around, a lot less work, with major results. And the difference is personal development. The difference is having more effect with the words I use, what I say, how I teach, and how I work with people. And that required a whole lot of work on myself to accomplish that. So Think and Grow Rich was one of the books. Another book, which I still read to this very day, sitting on my desk right now. I've had this single book in my possession for 20 years, the same book. And the cover and the spine is all worn out because I've had the book that long. And it's called As a Man Thinketh. And of course there is the politically correct version called As You Think. So there's one called As You Think and As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And it is a book that is about 60 pages. And it is a book that I've been reading for, 2 decades. But every time I open it up and read it, or read a chapter, because you can read the whole book in about an hour, right? And if you're a fast reader, you're done in 20 minutes. But every time I read it, it speaks to me differently, because it's a book of contemplation. It is a book of reflection, and it enables us to see how our thoughts affect our character, and how our thoughts affect our circumstances, and how our thought can affect our health, and how our thought relates to purpose, and how our thought relates in achievement, and how ultimately our visions and ideals make up our destiny. And when we read that book, we get some amazing insights on the power of thought. And so it's all about changing some of those thoughts, and a lot of the thoughts that we have to a large degree may have to do with much of the environment that we're associated with and the inputs that we've received over years and years and years, time grown over the decades, many of which are disempowering. And so here's the great news, everybody. There is a path to prosperity. That path can be as rapid as you choose to make it. We do have that much of a choice, but we do have to overcome the emotions, and we need to discipline those disappointments when they come, use them to step up to the next level, use them to go to the next level, such that we can fully manifest whatever our dreams, goals, and aspirations are. This is what our business is all about. When you go beyond the product, and when you go beyond the basics, certainly to make an extra $1,000, $2,000 a month, none of this is necessary. Personal development is not necessary at those levels. You can hand out some product and share a little information. But when it comes down to what we do, that'll happen very, very quickly. That'll happen very, very quickly, so long as we are manifesting our vision through personal development. And so it's a great time right now over the summer as the organization is moving, is growing. There's a lot of new success stories, a lot of new momentum, a lot of new growth, and all of that is a result of many people who are on the path to growing their own business here in ZG International, and collectively, that's what makes up the grand vision. I wish everybody continued success. Once again, happy Memorial Day, and looking forward to continued success and working with all of you. I've been asked a number of times this week, when is the Art of Network Distribution going to be ready for purchase? I'm hoping before the end of this week. It will be in a downloadable form, and there'll be 10 hours of material on there on almost every aspect of our business, and so that will also help advance and compress your learning curve and development curve. Thanks, everybody, and continued success. The lines are open.